All right, happy Monday. We've got a packed agenda, so I'm going to jump right on in. First one, MR coach rotation. This was a brainstorm from Friday where I was thinking through it, and if we're truly going to swarm on the escalation that we know is coming our way in 13.6, then that means everybody's available and everybody's working towards it. As we currently work towards the MR coach rotation, that means we're pulling people out, so they're not expected to drive product forward. So this is an honest question. Should we do a one iteration pause on MR coach, which effectively does not reserve capacity for those things that we cannot plan for, which would be priority one bugs or community contributions? So it's an honest question, looking for people's opinions and feedback.
I guess verbalize mine to say that I didn't have any, but also that I agree with Lucas's point.
So to verbalize my point, I think I understand the intent, but I'm just trying to clarify what our expected outcome is. Are we going to ignore any merge request that comes in? Or rather, I guess I would say that we should probably consider reducing the scope of the role, but we still need a point person to thank someone and maybe just respond to things. I don't know if Ray ends up doing that indirectly or how that actually works right now, but
what Ray has done is when a contribution comes in, he figures out which group it's supposed to and then pings them directly, the manager of that group directly, to say, hey, find somebody to work on this. I can do a stock answer. I can be that point person. So I'm happy to fill this role. It's like we're limited in capacity. We appreciate your contribution. We'll be getting to this in 13.7. So having said that, it's been quiet on the community contribution front for the past several months, or past like 3. So I still like the role. I still like that there's built-in Slack time, particularly if we have a priority one bug that comes in. We have a few that come in from time to time. It's nice to have that Slack built into the schedule. And I very much like seeing what you all come up with to work on while you're not being driven. So by product priorities. So it's I like the routine. So I don't want to lose it. But I can give that. If y'all are okay with it, I can do this where I can respond. Hey, we don't. We appreciate it. We're coming back. We'll get you then. Yeah. If you all are okay with that.
Okay with me. So the MR coach will be shifted by one rotation, right? So Ross will be MR coach for 13.7.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same order. We just delay it a month. We just put a 1 month gap in. Okay. All right, I'll move on. All right, Vet has a weekly sync. It is now, as was suggested in the last Tuesday sync, that we moved this to the secure stage calendar. It should be there now. You should be able to see it. It has rotating times between what is available for Asia APAC folks and one that's friendly for EMEA and EMEA folks. So it rotates on an every other week basis. Everybody's welcome to be there. So you're welcome. If you have questions for it, right now the primary audience is Taylor, myself, Todd, Daniel, Lucas, and folks from vulnerability research. But everybody's welcome to attend, and so this is visibility. Please drop by if you're interested. So it's more of an announcement than anything else. Any questions on that? All right, I see the floor. Taylor.
Okay, so there is a lot happening this week. I'm going to skip to number 4, actually. So the Forrester SAST Wave presentation is happening this week. which is basically where we go and explain to Forrester the story that we want to tell. We give them a product demo. I believe it's a one-way conversation, so I don't think they actually ask questions. So it's purely us communicating to them. This is the primary input to what will end up being the Forrester Wave. So this is a brand new thing for us, actually, and for Forrester as well. They have not had a AST focused wave before. I will say this is specifically our group. They have decided that their AST is focused purely on SAST. So this is pretty exciting. I am very hopeful for the outcome of this. This is my primary focus this week, and this drives number 3. So there's some category direction updates. It's been a hot second since I have updated the category direction page. So it's a pretty large change. It contains a good amount of updates of our current and past functionality updates. So definitely take a look at that. Feel free to add any comments or suggestions. I'm likely going to get David to merge that later today or early tomorrow. So do please jump on that for feedback. If there are, I guess I'll pause there. Any questions on those 2 items? Okay, I'll keep going. So I would say just be aware that Wednesday that demo is happening. So let's not break things. Not that we do that. I want it to go great and flawless. We're meeting later today to discuss what the plan is for that. Once we have the presentation, which I think we're making tomorrow, I'll definitely share that so y'all can see the story that we're telling. It is a 2-hour meeting, so it is definitely going to be action-packed and will be chock full of us really just talking about SAST.
Since you're demoing, that means you prepared a demo. So what do we specifically need to not break?
Well, Fern is going to demo that, I believe, and it will be sort of end to end. It'll be on .com, on a gold account, demoing going from no SAST to setting up SAST to managing vulnerabilities. We may show some of the core experience. Not quite sure. We're going to flesh that out later today, but I'll definitely let y'all know what else we're going to demo. I'll probably post something in the secure channel as well, just so people are aware.
All right. I'll ask less obliquely. What languages are being demoed?
Do not know. We will probably demo the Simply Simple Notes project, which I don't know what it's written in. We have basically code samples that we know there are vulnerabilities in that we just continuously open MRs with. So that is a pretty like scoped and traditional demo. It's what we do with customers. So I don't expect anything sort of crazy there. Now, we may try to show more. I'll know more later today. Any questions? Okay, so moving on, I am very excited that I have written all of the release post content and it is not even October yet. I'm going to take a moment and celebrate because I'm not running behind for once. You will notice that we're following a new process. We have a new generator tool, which basically allows you to write release post content in the issues or the epics rather than starting in the MR. So you'll see in the static analysis channel, I've put links to all of the issues that I'm expecting to have release posts. You'll see a new section in the description that is release posts. I don't love this new process because I think it convolutes some of what's in the description. Like now there are random images that I have there. It's what it is. The driving factor behind why is this now in the description is that Sid basically wants issues and epics to have more context and details in them, and eventually wants us to write all of this content up front so that when we start a release, we know what the content of the features and what they're going to look like is going to happen. I think we are ages away from that being a reality. But that's sort of the ambition here. I'm going to give this a few days for y'all to provide any edits or tweak anything. You don't need to check with me. Feel free to edit the descriptions directly. This is very much in the like checking my understanding of the feature. In fact, I'll point out the custom rules is something that I'm not fully sure I have correctly articulated or understand how it actually works. So definitely do take a look at that one specifically. But what we'll do is in a few days, there is a label trick where you put new special labels onto those issues, which are, I think, release post, and you tell it primary, secondary, bug fix, and there's a few others. And there is a script that watches for those labels every hour, and it will open the MR supposedly magically, assign all of the things, tag all of the people, put all the image content stuff. And then we go through the final edit process just like we normally do in the MRs. There is no backsync to the issue, which is a whole nother issue that like now we have two sources of truth. So like there are problems. This is where we're centralizing, and I have been asked to write release posts in this way. So know that while I'm focused right now on 13.5, you will start seeing this release post section in many other places, and I'm going to try to start writing these things much earlier. So that's what it is. Again, you don't need to ask any permission or anything. I will try to make it very clear that when a release post MR has been generated, I'll probably update the parent issue with a link to that to try to reduce duplication. That way, like if you won't edit the wrong thing and we won't lose those edits. So that's the sort of new process. Any questions on that?
So you put the label on it, it does the magic, it moves it over to the release post. If I change that release post description in the original issue again after that has happened, does that also sync forward, or is it just a one-time sync?
One-time sync. There is no cross-syncing. What I'll do is I will be very cognizant of when I'm triggering that thing, and I'll be watching it to make sure it opens the correct thing, because I assume it will not. There are a few issues with how it tags, and y'all are not the only people who work on those features, so I'll have to go in and tag front end on it. So what I'll do is that when that process happens, I will remove the content from the description and just put the link to whatever that MR is.
Yeah, I was thinking that, and that sounds like a handy improvement of the script in the future, but iteration.
Yeah, I'm going to propose that back to the process. Other questions? So like I said, do please take a look at those. I will paste that again here in just a second. Like I said, you don't need to ask me for permission, just edit the description. I can see the changes of the description if I need to figure out what has changed. But feel free to go for it. Y'all own these features just as much as I do. So help me explain them to customers. Okay, on to Ross.
I will just summarize Taylor's answer, which is we don't, Windows Phone apps are end of life, so we don't need to worry about adding support to them for them to mob SF. Thanks for that. On to you, Lucas.
So I just opened a new issue on the SaaS custom rules epic that needs priority, but on our recent shift and focusing more on enterprise readiness, I opened that one to capture one of the outcomes of the technical discovery, which focuses on reusability and scalability of custom rules, which is an issue that we see for our CI configurations as well. Namely, if we're using rules in a repo, how does that scale up to a group reusing rules across hundreds or thousands of projects? So that issue is for discussing that and figuring out how we can support that use case. If you have any thoughts, feel free to contribute to that issue or vocalize here.
So this actually gets to my question on the release post for this. How does this feature work? Like, can you give us like a quick like overview of how you would So I get there's a TOML file if you write it in the right format, but how do I include it?
So it gets auto-include based on the path. I need to find this link. There is a merge request, here it is, that just got merged into the docs, and it is at this page. Okay, 1 second. There is a folder called .gitlab that exists, and within that folder, people put things and they're automatically loaded. Okay, I don't know where it is, but this is the diff for that merge request.
If I recall correctly, it's the same mechanism used to configure GitLab managed applications, right?
Yes, and issue templates and a bunch of other things. So there is a .gitlab folder. This MR 2 weeks ago just got merged to actually help us clearly document what this folder does, because it does a lot of different things. But you stick things in this folder like code owners files or whatever, and this gets auto-included. The idea of this being a configurable file path, there is no issue for it. That might be a requirement someday. We'll see. But if that's present and you have the feature available to you, SAS custom rule sets, then it will be auto-included by individual analyzers and processed.
Got it. Okay, so yeah, this is a new concept for Secure then. You go and you write your TOML file, you put it in this special directory, and our system magically figures out that you have that file there, that it has rules in it, and will load them into the correct analyzer?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So this specific 0.7 is primarily about existing scalability issues that we've had with CI configuration. So things like compliance, always including the SAS job in hundreds of project CI configuration. We don't really have a good mechanism at an organizational level for dealing with that properly. And we're at risk of falling into the exact same traps here with the custom rules as well. So if you want to include custom rules in hundreds of projects, the current proposal is add an include line to every one of those projects' SAS rule set TOML file, which is a dumb approach. It's consistent across the platform, but it does have obvious limitations. So if we want to
ship with this in VC, or is that an additional thing for later?
The TOML specification does not include or does not have an include word currently.
Okay.
So it's not currently possible to share any TOML files.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that is absolutely fine for this in VC. I just wanted to make sure I understood. So if I have 20 projects, I need to go put this file into that folder on all 20 projects.
Yes.
Okay, and then in the future, maybe we fix this and make it better, but all in incremental improvements. Okay, what about, and sorry to hijack, but I think this is important for us all to understand. So I know we want to shift some of our existing rules that GitLab manages in those. Are we providing one of these files by default?
We are not. So the current functionality that is like done and merged is the pass-through keyword in that TOML file, which just straight up passes through a big string into the underlying analyzer. And there's only a single analyzer that supports that pass-through currently. The next steps, including like disabling rules, that would also be in that file, but it currently will just not be processed. Okay. So incrementally supporting different specifications is one step, and then incrementally supporting those specifications within each individual analyzer is the other. But because not every analyzer supports different configurations, it will never really work universally. We're going to, and that's a bit of a documentation problem we need to figure out, which is it's going to be very piecemeal. We need like a 3-dimensional matrix for how this is actually rolling out.
Okay, yeah, I get the complexity here because I was looking at the GoSec code changes and I could not figure out what you were actually doing. So I think I can work with Russell and help try to brainstorm how do we explain this to customers. So I think this is probably the release post that I will focus the most on, and I'm more than happy to help contribute to those docs.
Yeah, awesome. And I think that's going to be really valuable. The only other thing was hopefully we get the other issue done this release, which is disabling individual rules, because I think that is we wrote about that in the epic, but I really think that that is the value driver for providing an MVC. The current functionality isn't really providing much value in and of itself, but actually disabling rules that makes things a lot more clear, and that'll make it that should actually universally apply for all analyzers.
Okay, so now I understand the feature we're building. Anyone else have questions on this before we move on? Okay, so I'm going to try to do this without saying the customer name. So the customer who was helping contribute to MobSF, we are still waiting on the code for that. We have basically confirmed that they are indeed going to upgrade. This is kind of a really crazy sale or purchase. They are purchasing GitLab for what looks like to be 4 years prepaid. Which I have not seen a deal like that before. And when you think of this in terms of traditional security products, you don't generally buy security products 4 years in advance. So to me, that is the best commitment we could have from a customer, that they believe in what we're building, that they like the features we're developing, and that SAST is a core reason they are buying into the GitLab ecosystem, or I should say upgrading into the ultimate experience. So I think it's a huge win. We're still waiting for the T's and C's to be signed, but this is going to be a huge deal. It looks like it's going to be about 3 million in IACV, which is wild. So congrats everyone on all of your work here. They very much are buying into some of our upcoming features like custom rule sets and our vet analyzer, which I've talked them through. They, of course, are contributing MobSF. They've also expressed interest in contributing to our secret detection or our secret management functionality, so our integration with HashiCorp's Vault. So this to me is like the ideal customer. It's someone who understands what we're building, they understand the value prop, they understand where we're going, and they're buying wholesale into it. So I am thrilled at this. We are still waiting for them to hand over that code. A little backstory here, they have relationships with the vendors that they are leaving that start with a V. And they are actively managing the sort of closeout of that relationship, if you will. There are lots of moving pieces for them to do that. So they are trying to be very cognizant and very careful with how they actually roll that out. So that's why we're paused. I'm hoping we're going to get the code very soon. I've got a meeting with their technical director tomorrow, and we're going to ask for an estimated timeline so that we can plan around this rather than just sort of saying like, hope we get it soon. I would say if we don't get this code by this week, I'm going to go ahead and punt this out of 13.5. I also did talk with David, and we went through all of the things we're planning in 13.5, which is a lot. He is very thrilled about what we're releasing. It comes at the perfect time when we're doing all of these analyst briefings. We're looking at how the messaging is going to play out in terms of the release post and the marketing we want to do. So we actually may turn this into a 13.5, 13.6 SAST sweeps months of features. So no, we're still playing around with like how do we get the most bang for our buck for all of the features that we're creating and releasing. So that's kind of an update on that. Any questions on this specific customer? Cool. Okay, on to Lucas.
I think I have a discussion that perhaps we can end our recording for.